Hey, Friend-tastic friends! We did it! We did 13 days of videos for Jerry Blueberry. It was my first time doing 13 videos in 13 days. It was my first time doing this many videos, like, consecutively. I'm very proud of myself. I'm so very proud of myself. And I appreciate you all for sticking with me through it and watching every day. It really warmed my heart. It was very interesting to see, like, what was popular with you guys and what wasn't as much. So I may be doing like different stuff coming up soon. So I may be trying different things for the channel. If there's stuff that you like seeing, like let me know, comment, message me, whatever. Like if you liked the skincare routines and like the health journey update better, or if you liked the journaling stuff better, or the book stuff better, or movies or music or whatever, like just let me know because I would love to do more of what you guys like. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I already have plans to do this again closer to Christmas and do like a vlogmas, um, but we'll call it like something different. I'll figure it out for sure, but I think I'll do this again in December for you guys. So make sure you check out the giveaway from day 11 where I show you how I use my bullet journal. And then I have a giveaway posted on there. I'm going to pick the winner tomorrow. You can enter on Instagram or on YouTube or both, and you win a bullet journal, like a custom bullet journal from me. And then if you want to order a bullet journal through me, just message me. And then after we figure out everything that you need for your journal and come up with a plan, it can be a digital bullet journal or it can be a physical one. Once we get everything set in stone, I invoice you through Squarespace so that you can pay in any way that's comfortable for you. So yeah, I'm gonna do the reading wrap up for October because I read like a lot of spooky books for this month, and I have never really been into scary stories before, but I got really into them like this year, so I was excited to share them with you guys. Yeah, so if you want to know like the brief stats for what I read this month, I'll have it down in the description. Oh, and I wanted to say that I decided to do this video on my bed because I started by recording videos on my bed for this series, so I wanted to end it on my bed. And to be honest, it's like really comfortable laying here. So, yeah, we might do more bed videos. We'll see. Anywho, books I read for October. Technically speaking, I finished A Court of Mist and Fury and The School for Good Mothers in October, but I filmed that in my September reading wrap up. So from there, we're going to jump into The Butcher and the Wren. The Butcher and the Wren is like, it's written by an author that wrote, or that did a like a crime podcast, and then they decided to write a crime book. So I had never really read a crime book before that I know of, not in a traditional, not like a traditional true crime story. It was a short read. I gave it 3 stars because it was like, it just felt like a very cliche CSI episode. The gory imagery was pretty good. The ending was like, meh. Like, it left you hanging, but not in a way that made me want to like read more or something. I don't know. It was just meh. So I give it 3 stars. Let's see. Oh, I read The Gunslinger. I've had a few people tell me that The Gunslinger was good, and I have gotten into Stephen King. I do think he's an excellent writer, but The Gunslinger is very much a Western vibe, and I just didn't care for it. It was really hard for me to get through it. I almost didn't finish it. I almost just DNF'd it, but I decided just to muscle through. Apparently it's a series, and I've heard that the series gets better as you go on. I just don't know that I would keep reading the series. I don't know. But yeah, it's a guy that is a gunslinger that looks for another guy that wears black. And he goes through a town and kills like a lot of people or everybody, whichever. He meets a boy. The boy goes with him to keep trying to find the man in black. It almost reminded me of The Alchemist, to be honest, where I was just like, it's just a guy trying to find his way in life and like he's doing it wrong, I guess. I don't know. whatever. I give it 2 stars. I'm very sorry to the people that love it. I'm still a huge Stephen King fan. I just wasn't interested in that content. But the writing obviously is amazing because it's Stephen King. I read the original Dracula by Bram Stoker. I am not a vampire fan. I am not a classic novel fan. I really don't like classic novels. They bore me. The pace is so very slow in all of them. The language I feel like is hard to keep up with or boring. I loathe hearing about women being stupid and oppressive and praying and all the stuff that classic novels talk about women doing. So I gave Dracula 3 stars. It did make me more interested in vampires, that's for sure. Like, I think vampires are way more interesting now that I've read the original, and I also loved all of like the history that came with it because it's such a well-known character, I guess. So I thought that was cool. I read Carrie by Stephen King. I gave it 4 stars, and I have a lot of thoughts about this. So if you follow me on Instagram or GoodReads, you'll get to read my reviews, my detailed reviews, and how many stars I gave it on GoodReads. They're not super detailed. Like, I don't write a mini novel. I don't tell you what the book's about. I just give you my honest thoughts and opinions. And then on Instagram, I just post to my story like a screenshot of the cover with how many stars I give it and just a quick little couple sentences. Nothing huge. So this is where I really get to deep dive and share all my thoughts. Okay, I love Stephen King. Never seen any Carrie movie ever. I know that Chloe Moretz plays like the newer Carrie, and I knew the premise was that it was a girl that was bullied, and she had telekinesis. That's all I kind of knew. I knew it was a really famous story. So I read it because it is a shorter audiobook. It was 7 hours. Like I said, I'm trying to get into Stephen King, and I'm trying to get like creepier and spookier stories because I'm learning that I'm getting into them. Not just thrillers, but stuff that's like pretty gross and gruesome. So I figured it was a good time to read Carrie. And so it was written in the 70s, which I think is kind of important. Like, for the time that this book was written, I think it's amazing that it was published and even became a popular story. Because I know that back then, these topics were not really in the forefront of anybody's mind. So I do think Stephen King wrote ahead for his time. But with that said, like right off the bat, they start talking about periods and menstruation. And I'm like, dude, you're a grown man talking about a teenage girl's perspective on periods in the 70s. Like, why did you do this to yourself? You were just setting yourself up for failure, to be honest. I don't like the way he described periods or period cramps or humiliation. I don't like that they said that her mother should have taken her to a doctor since she hadn't started her period by 17. Yeah, I wasn't okay with any of the period talk, really. I just felt like it wasn't natural or correct on many levels. So I guess, like, again, for it being a guy in the 70s writing about this, I commend him for his attempt. But I do not want, like, teenage girls reading this and thinking, or, like, dudes reading this and thinking that this is what periods are like, or this is what's normal, or this is what's not normal. I hate that we have this stress of what normal is, especially around periods. Like, it's not talked about enough. So whenever it is talked about in the wrong way, I get kind of, like, upset about it. So yeah, whenever you start your period is whenever you start your period. Nothing is abnormal about it. Nothing is... Yeah, there might be very rare circumstances that would cause you to be abnormal, but whenever your body decides to hit puberty and start your period is your body's thing. Like, you can't let other people tell you that you're weird or something over that. Like, please, please. Okay. Yeah. So that's my rant on men talking about menstruation. The other thing that, like, I hated about this book was whenever he talked about sex, because again, he's trying to talk about it from a female perspective, but he's a dude in the 70s. So, like, I cannot even begin to tell you how much I hate the phrase, her breasts were heaving with anticipation, or her breasts were swollen with excitement. Um, like, what is that, right? Like, if you're a woman listening to this, you're like laughing right now because I know you've read this and I know you're probably over it because it's just not a thing. Like, it's just, it's just, I have to laugh. Like, it's not a thing. So, yeah, I just can't. Um, and then, yeah, talking about women orgasming just from like plain old penetration and missionary position. And I'm like, come on, dude. Really? Like, that's not a thing either. That's not a thing. And I hate that it perpetuates the idea that women can often get pleasure in that way. Like, maybe you are a woman and that works for you, and I'm so happy for you. But for the majority of women, generic, like, penis penetration in missionary position is not gonna, like, it's not gonna end. It's not gonna end in a climax. I'm very sorry. This video is not kid friendly, 100%. I'm sorry we just went right into a sex talk. I apologize, but I needed to get all this off my chest. So yeah, I hate that perpetuation of female pleasure just in a wrong way. I love that Stephen King was so detailed and descriptive about cars and like not about female sex. I love how it showed the issues that people have with authors writing in perspectives out of their scope. Like that's a big thing for me that I really hate. Otherwise, this story was amazing. So besides the sex and the period talks, it was an amazing story. Stephen King's writing is always impeccable as far as imagery. I just have full on images and scenes in my head that I've created with my imagination thanks to his excellent writing. I love that it talks about how different people's lives are and how sheltered people can be without us knowing or realizing it. I love that it talks about bullying and mental health. Yeah, I like that it brought up a lot of excellent points with all of that. I have never seen the movie, but I do have an issue with Chloe Moretz playing Carrie because Carrie is described as a not attractive, like, chubby girl with acne. And I know that Chloe Moretz is, like, truly beautiful and flawless. So I'm wondering why she played Carrie, but whatever. I'll get to that whenever I watch the movies. Yeah, it talks about, like, religion and religion extremists. It brings up a lot of good points. Like, people making bad decisions and then realizing it and regretting it and making up for it. Like, it has a lot of good morals in there. I liked it. So I gave it 4 stars. Also, Stephen King redeems himself in the book later, where he makes fun of authors talking about female sex and orgasms. So I decided to kind of forgive him on his bad representation in this book in the 70s whenever I read his book later. But I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that later. So that's my rant on Carrie. I think that you should read it. And I think that you should read it knowing that he will describe periods and female pleasure poorly. Other than that, it'll be fine. But if you're like me and you grew up reading trashy romance novels, then you're used to people talking about female sex in a poor way. I just know that whenever I read like A Court of Thorns and Roses or A Court of Mist and Fury, those spicy scenes are like spicy, and I am not comfortable listening to them or reading them at work because they are like good spicy. But whenever I listen to Carrie and he talks about teenagers having sex and the woman orgasming, I'm like laughing to myself because it's so ridiculous, right? So that's the difference. All right, so 4 stars for Carrie. Overall, I think you should read it. I read Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. It's been on my list for a long time because it's in the book The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Charlie has a list of books that he reads in that book, and so I've been wanting to read it. I hated it. I should have given it 2 stars. I gave it 3 out of generosity for the character that has been developed from that book. But honestly, it's not a good book. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry if you love it. I'm very sorry if you love and appreciate classics, but I cannot. So, for many reasons, it's incredibly racist. It is so incredibly racist. I realize that it's an old book written in like the 1900s, but it's really hard to listen to them talk about Indigenous people in that way. Um, it's kind of boring, to be honest. I can't think of anything else. Let me see what I actually wrote on GoodReads. Oh, so one of the biggest issues I have in this book is like Peter Pan's narcissism and like awful toxic masculinity. It's just dripping with it. Like, he's the boss because he says he's the boss. And if he doesn't know things, then no one else is allowed to know them because he doesn't want to seem stupid. And um, they also can't like things if he doesn't like it because he knows best. And so it's just this, it's kind of like Lord of the Flies. It's just Lord of the Flies with these like dumb kids and some assholes in charge, and nobody knows why he's in charge. It's just that nobody's questioned him or is like tough enough to stand up to him. And it's just like full of, yeah, like I don't think I'd ever read this book to my kids because I don't want Peter Pan to be a role model. Like, honestly, the only thing I loved about this book was the very end whenever they talk about like after Wendy grew up. That was the only thing I really loved about this book. And the very beginning, whenever they talk about Wendy's family, I liked the very beginning. And the dad's trying to figure out how they're going to afford having all their kids and stuff like that. Otherwise, Peter Pan's just a narcissistic asshole boy that lives on a make believe island and tries to run everything. And, like, he doesn't want anybody to leave him. So he tells them that mothers are horrible. When in reality, it was just his mother that was horrible. Not everybody's mother is horrible. And then he tries to make, like, Wendy think that her parents don't love her, even though they do. But he's just, like, possessive. And so he wants her to stay. It's just very gross. I didn't like it. Anyways, I gave it 3 stars because, like I said, it created a lot of cool movies and characters that weren't as racist or narcissistic or having huge egos and toxic masculinity. So that's that. And then I listened to my library app. So I use Libby and Hoopla for my local libraries. And like they'll both suggest books that they think that you'll like, or they suggest books for the season. So that on the Libby app, there was a whole tab for spooky stories, like how good Halloween reads. And there was a really short book called The House. I think it was only like an hour long or something like that, or 2 hours long, maybe. And so I borrowed it and I thought that it was going to be like an adult spooky ghost story, but I was wrong. I was misled. It is definitely for YA or younger, like middle grade or younger. So whenever you take into consideration that it is for YA to middle grade, it's pretty good. It was definitely not scary. It was not, well, it wasn't like very super scary like a Stephen King book or anything. The scenes in it weren't super gory or anything. They go to a haunted house because that's the prank that they're supposed to do as freshmen, to prove that they're like not scaredy cats or whatever. And it's a tradition in town. And then they're like, oh shit, it's actually haunted, and they get proof that it's actually haunted, and then they have to solve the mystery. So that's that. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think like teens and kids would enjoy it. It was cute. So I gave it 4 stars. There was really nothing bad about it. The story wasn't bad. The plot wasn't horrible. It was just like I thought it was going to be for adults, and it's not for adults. So I read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that surprised me. I would buy this book and like keep it on the shelf and read it every year. It's one of the best classic novels I've ever read. Um it was not like super slow paced. It wasn't super duper long unnecessarily. It didn't have any like weird any like weird oppression towards groups of people or minorities at all. There weren't any women in it, so no woman was being like forced to pray or marry or have kids or be good or be oppressed. So I liked that about it. The audiobook I think is only like 3 hours, 4 hours, so it's a short read. Um, it was suspenseful with the way it was written, and you're wondering like what is happening or what's going to happen. So the writing was suspenseful enough to me. Um, and yeah, I just liked it overall. I don't know if I'm stupid and like I know that's a weird way to start a sentence. I don't know if I've just like lived under a rock for this, but I feel like my understanding of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was the opposite of what it actually is. So I thought Dr. Jekyll was the mean, nasty, tall guy. Wait. Yes. I thought Dr. Jekyll was like the mean, nasty, tall guy that would kill people. And then Mr. Hyde was like a small, nice man. Like Mr. Hyde was the original man that was super nice and cute. And then he split himself and made Dr. Jekyll, who was evil and tall and ogreish and blah. But come to find out, Dr. Jekyll is tall, but he's the nice doctor man that splits himself. And Mr. Hyde is like this short little evil Danny DeVito looking guy. So I got that mixed up. Maybe like pop culture mixed that up in my head. Because I think in Once Upon a Time, Dr. Jekyll is like the tall, mean guy. And then the short, nice guy with the glasses is Mr. Hyde. I don't know. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But I did always think it was the opposite. Anyways, I like that book. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Annihilation. I saw the movie whenever it came out with Natalie Portman. I'm saying that name and it doesn't sound right. And Oscar Isaac. I think it's Natalie Portman. Anyways, the movie was okay. I don't really remember all of it, but I remember it being like, okay, and there were some creepy parts. So I read the book. It's supposed to be a really good spooky book, and I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. It definitely kept me on my toes. It kept me wondering what was next. It is weird. It's super dreamy. It's an unreliable narrator because she starts to lose her mind a little bit and lose grip of reality while she's in Area X. It is, I feel like it's not really anything like the movie. So, yeah. I think I might re-watch the movie now that I've seen the book to kind of remind myself. But I do know that I don't remember any of the things from the movie actually happening in the book. So like if you've seen the movie, there's a part with a bear, and that doesn't happen in the book. So that was interesting. The ending of the movie did not happen in this book. But I do know that it's part of a series, so maybe the movie was trying to encompass some of the next book. I'm not really sure. But I did enjoy the book. I gave it 4 stars. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to ruin it for you, but I do think it was really good. And the writing was, like I said, the writing was very suspenseful and really kept you wanting to like keep listening and find out what happens next. Like I think I finished Annihilation in like 2 days. So, then I read Rock, Paper, Scissors. I had put it on hold because one of my friends posted about it and said it was really good and said the audiobook was really good because the actors had an accent, or the narrators had an accent. So I'd put it on hold at my local library, and originally it said like 12 weeks was my wait, but then it became available like way sooner. So I read it. And Alice Feeney may become my new obsession author. I do have another book that I've started by her, but I haven't finished it yet. Rock, Paper, Scissors is super good. Like, super good. It had me hooked almost instantly with the way it's written. And it's written from different perspectives, with like the female perspective and the male perspective. And so, yeah, it had a lot of what moments to it where I was like, what? Oh my God. There was like a huge twist about 80% into the book where I had to stop and like think to myself and thought about rereading the book from the beginning again. So I will definitely reread it eventually. Now that I know what the twist is, like I want to listen to it again with that fresh perspective. but I didn't want to be greedy and start it over again because it is still like there's still people waiting for it, and I know what it's like to wait for a book on hold. So I'll reread it eventually, but it's really good. I don't want to tell you anything else. I want you to read it. Like, it really surprised me. Okay. And then I read Later by Stephen King. It's one of his newest novels. It came out in 2022, I think. Maybe 2021. It's called Later. It's about a teenage boy that can see ghosts. And I gave it 5 stars. Its average rating on GoodReads is 4, which for GoodReads is a really good score. GoodReads doesn't really have a lot of 5-star reads. A lot of them are in the 4 range. So I think I think that means it's pretty good. It did have an unexpected twist at the end. I kind of expected it, but like I kind of didn't. Like I was thinking it, but then it happened, and I was like, oh, that's what I thought would happen, and I'm happy it happened. So it was like, but then there was still an unexpected piece to it, so I was okay with it. But yeah, I thought Later was really good, and that's where I was saying that like in the book there is like a male novelist that talks about female sex, and even and like they make fun of the author for saying something about heaving breasts. And so I was like, okay, Stephen King, I see you. I see that you've realized your flaws and you're making up for it now. I appreciate that. So that's why I was like, he did his best in the 70s with Carrie. And I'm really surprised that that book even became popular whenever it was written. So I'll be okay with it. So yeah, I gave Later 5 stars. I thought it was really good. It is definitely a modern vibe. Excellent Stephen King writing. Like I've said before, I have like full visions of scenes. I feel like I'm watching a movie. It's also a shorter book, so it's not too daunting of a read. But yeah, I don't think there was anything else that I wrote about that one other than like it was unexpectedly comedic in some ways. So like there's this part that just lives in my head rent free as like an intrusive thought where he's talking about his uncle that lives in a home because he has like some medical stuff going on, and he's like I forget the medical term that they use to describe what he has. I think it's like early onset dementia or something. And then he like so anyways, they have to keep moving him into different nursing homes because they can't always afford the nursing home where he's living, right? If prices go up or whatever. And so he's saying like, "Oh yeah, we have to drive further and further to go see Uncle Harry because they keep moving him further west to cheaper nursing homes." So he's like some fucked up brain dead pioneer moving west. I just think some of that writing is really funny. Like the way that this teenage boy is describing stuff is just like, it's like a good comic relief to me. So I'll never forget that line of like his Uncle Harry being some brain dead, fucked up, brain dead pioneer moving west or something. I don't know. I just loved it. So, anyways, other than that, it has like a murder, a single parent, it has ghosts. It was just an awesome scary story. I read Nothing But Blackened Teeth after that, and I almost DNF'd it. Like really, I really almost DNF'd. Like really, really. I ended up skimming the last couple chapters because I was so over it and so bored with it. It has a really low rating on GoodReads, but it kept coming up on like my app, and the cover looked super spooky. So I read it, and I didn't listen to the audiobook. I got the physical book. And so yeah, it's about people that I thought were teenagers, but I found out that they're actually in their early 20s. Go to like a haunted house, and that's what they do for a living or for fun. And 2 of them were going to get married at this haunted house, and the group of friends like all used to date each other. So it's like the people that were getting married used to date like a couple other people, and then there's like a 5th random guy. And I'm not really sure how they're all friends or why they're all there together because they seem to all hate each other. And then there's like a dead bride that got buried in the house waiting for her husband or something. I don't know. So like some of the descriptions were very creepy in the beginning. And then it just got stupid. I feel like it just got stupid and not scary, and I stopped caring, and I just skimmed the last couple chapters because the book's only like 120 pages long. So for the last like 30 pages, I was just like quickly flipping through because I was like, I want to DNF it. I don't really care how it ends, but I'll just skim through and see what happens just to say I did it. So that's how I feel about that book. 1 star. 1. I almost DNF'd it. 1 star. So then I have not posted this on GoodReads yet or on Instagram, but I officially finished Pet Sematary like today as I'm recording this, right before I recorded this. So like I said, I've been dipping my toe into creepier and creepier books and scarier books. I'm getting really into Stephen King, like really, really into Stephen King. And so Pet Sematary just kept coming up as a really good scary story for Halloween. So I read it, and it's a little longer. It's long. I wouldn't say it's super long. The audiobook is 16 hours. And the audiobook is read by Michael C. Hall, which if you don't know is Dexter. And I love his voice. Like, love it. And it is so, so, so perfect for a scary story. I wish Michael C. Hall would do more audiobooks, especially scary story audiobooks. Not only does he have an excellent tone to his voice that gives it that creepiness factor, especially since we know him so well as Dexter, but he has really good skills at portraying different characters. So like whenever he portrays Judd, he has a really good accent for Judd where he like says Rud instead of road. And like whenever he's doing the wife's voice or the daughter's voice, he has like his really good like high-pitched more feminine voice. I don't know. I really loved him as a narrator. I feel like I wouldn't have enjoyed the book as much if he wouldn't have been the narrator. So yeah, Pet Sematary is super good. Like I said, I haven't released it or written an actual review for it yet since I just finished it. But it's definitely a 5-star read for me. Definitely a 5-star read. I think it's a really good spooky season read that I would see myself reading again in the future in a few years. I saw the movie Pet Sematary like a long time ago. Like I was a child. I might have been like somewhere between 8 and 10. And I thought I could handle a scary movie. And we watched it. And you know, I bet if I watched it today, I wouldn't find it as scary because it is pretty old and hokey looking, like the original Exorcist. But back then, it like truly haunted my dreams. Like true, actually, to this day, there are still like clips from that movie about her sister Zelda that like really just stuck with me through the years because I was so traumatized as a kid. I'm sorry my hair is such a mess and I just keep messing with it because it's such a mess tonight, but here we are. So, anyways, Pet Sematary is the last book I read for, what's it called? October. I'm, yeah, I may finish one more before October ends, but I'll just add it to my November list. Anywho, Pet Sematary is so sad. Like, so I knew what was going to happen going into it because I'd seen the movie and I knew the story, right? Like, if you don't know the story, I'm really sorry for you, but I'm about to spoil it. So maybe pause this if you've never seen it or heard of it or anything. But basically, a family moves into a new town for work and they find out that there's a pet cemetery behind their house, like a little ways up behind their house. They have a lot of land where they're living in this rural town. And their neighbors across the street become really good friends with them, and they're an older couple, like in their 80s, and they tell them about the pet cemetery up the hill behind their house because the road got busier and busier and has taken a lot of animals, so kids in the town picked that place to bury their pets. And then the family cat gets run over, and the husband and the neighbor across the street go bury it, but the neighbor tells them about the secret cemetery behind the pet, like that's further than the pet cemetery, and it's an old Indian burial ground, and so whenever you bury a pet there, it comes back to life, but it's like a little bit different. And so then later on, months later, the son gets run over by the car, and the dad slowly starts to lose his mind. and it's super duper sad. Like, it's really, really sad. It was one of those that I was listening to at work and I had to like stop and compose myself because I couldn't like cry while I'm sitting at my desk, because it's just really, really sad to think about. And maybe it's because I have kids and I have a 2-year-old that it makes it even like sadder to think about. But yeah, it really hits hard. So obviously you know where this is going. The dad decides to bury his son in Pet Cemetery, and his son comes back, but it doesn't end well at all. And his neighbor tried to tell him that it wouldn't end well, that people that have tried to bury people there, they don't come back right. So yeah, that's how that is. Sorry, my camera got mad at me for filming for too long, so I'll hurry up and wrap it up. But Pet Cemetery is amazing. Stephen King is becoming one of my favorite authors, and I do plan to keep reading Stephen King books. But I think I'm going to take a break from scary, sad stories for a while. And as I'm saying that, I'm realizing that my TBR has more sad stories on it. So I hope you liked this reading wrap up. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you have any book suggestions. Yeah, I love talking about books, so always feel free to reach out if you want to talk about books. Make sure you check out the giveaway. Check out ordering bullet journals from me or winning the free bullet journal. Like I said, I'm also going to start posting about digital bullet journals. I'll have more info on that soon. The winner for the giveaway will be announced tomorrow, November 1st. So it will close after I announce the winner, probably around like 9 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, I'll post my book stats below for November. I am currently reading The Outsiders, and I'm about a third of the way through that, so I may finish it. Like, yeah, I don't think I'll finish it before the end of the 31st, because technically it's the 30th right now, and Jerri recording time. You're watching this on the 31st, so anyways. So I'm going to read The Outsiders for November. And then the rest of the books on my list for November is A Series of Unfortunate Events, books number 5 through 13, because I started the series and got through books 1 through 4 and then stopped and started reading Harry Potter. So I really, really, really want to finish 5 through 13 of that series. After that, I don't have anything. So if you have recommendations for what to read in November, some good fall stories, some good holiday stories, let me know. I am so close to my goal of 121 books in 1 year. I think I am at book 88 or 89 out of 121. So I don't have very many left. I think I have about 30 books left to read, 30, 31. So we'll see, because in September and October I was able to read about 10 to 13 books, I think, each of those months, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I really have to pick up speed for November and December. I'm really determined to reach that goal. So if you can think of any stories that you think I should read, let me know. And thank you guys so very much for participating in Jerri Boo Berry, my first ever like multi-day run of videos. Keep an eye out for my weekly content. I'll still be making videos about like bullet journaling, books, movies, music, life updates. I'll be doing all that stuff. I'll just be posting once a week though, not multiple days in a row. And then before Christmas, I'll do 12 days of videos leading up to Christmas Day. So happy Halloween to you all. I hope you have fun tonight. Be safe. If you're going to parties, watch your drinks. Consent is important, and use the buddy system. If you have kids, have a great time, and I hope your kids look adorable in their costumes, and I hope your kids have fun, and I hope you eat lots of candy, and I love you all. Okay, bye.